Morning, hello there Gary. This is a response to your video called Attraction, Repulsion and Clock Speed on the DraftScience channel of yours. Okay, two things. Firstly, this thing about value, which you start out talking about. Yeah, it's interesting is all that, because I think you're right, and we do interpret values as positive and negative. You would say that we start out in the negative column, and to the extent that we can get back to neutral, that's felt as positive. I don't know if that's true or not. Might be, might not. I mean, certainly there's support from, well, certainly some of the things that Professor Anton's talked about, people like Lacan and Maurice Berman, who talk about us being born into a condition of kind of lack, or a condition of being broken. I can't remember the exact phrase that either of those people. Well, lack is Lacan's term. I mean, you won't be interested in it, I don't think. I'm not terribly interested in it, but a lot of it is kind of based in psychoanalysis. But the idea there is, that we are kind of broken, and we go through life kind of seeking our other half, sort of. Anyway, but yeah, I think yeah, maybe so. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. But in terms of positive and negative value, because you quite rightly, I think, change it into talk about, to use kind of physics metaphors, really. I don't know if you accept that they were metaphors. I think they are, but attraction, repulsion metaphors particularly, which I don't think were metaphors to start with. I mean, this is one of the interests for me in terms of value, because all these terms like value, they start somewhere. You know what I mean? They had an origin in our ancestors, in early life forms, I am sure, and they have an origin in our own bodies, which we're instantiating on a moment-to-moment basis. There's an unbroken chain of being attracted and being repelled, which goes right back to the earliest animals with sensory motor systems. I think it's different to sensory motor to the attractions and repulsions you get in things like sunflowers, which I've just been looking at. Piro's video where he doesn't make that distinction. I don't think it makes any sense to say a sunflower is attracted to the light or repelled by the light. Actually, having said that, it kind of does, because magnets we do talk about magnets being attracted and repelled, but it is part of the same metaphor. The attraction and repulsions that pains and pleasures hold, the positive and negative sensation, it is different to the attractions and repulsions that magnets display, or that sunflowers display, or that amoebas display, or that certain bacterial life forms display. All those kind of either purely chemical, purely physical, or complicated kind of it requires information processing to do, but it doesn't even touch the sides of consciousness or sentience or anything like that. I think those are just completely different. Once you've got central nervous systems and brains in the mix, then attraction and repulsion are no longer purely chemical or purely biochemical or purely reflexive. They are their reflexes promoted or demoted by a feeling tone that the organism can have. That's why I can resist the attractions of certain things, and I can resist the repulsions of certain things, but I have to put up with the fact that my feeling tone will tell me otherwise. I can, if I want to, put my hand in a fire and let it burn for a while, even though on a purely biochemical level I am finding that repulsive, and my ability to override the automatic reflexive nature of that repulsion, it's the fact that I can override that is why I have this thing called pain, I am sure, and I think that goes way back. So yeah, I think the origins of our values do lie in the biological equivalents to attractions and repulsions. Very early life forms being able to make selections based on the carrot and stick that nature held up to them when they were making something like choices, and we've obviously made that much more complex, and we call them different things now. But I think it's the same process going on. I think the physics metaphor about value is quite interesting, because obviously we do have this attraction and repulsion thing, and in the video that you cited that I've talked about, in addition to this kind of polarity of positive and negative attraction-repulsion thing, there is also vector. We are attracted or repelled by certain things, like putting your hand in a fire, The difficulty there is, which is the one you've identified. I mean, you don't say this, but it's clearly you've got this going on. Is that because of the way we are, it feels like if you're attracted by one thing, you're necessarily leaving something else behind. I was trying to draw this on a piece of paper, but I couldn't do it. Let me just explain what I mean by that. Here we are walking around as animals on a two-dimensional surface of a planet. Yeah, that's kind of how we do it. If I'm attracted to one thing over there and move towards it, then necessarily I'm moving away from that thing over there. Yeah, and so any kind of centre of attraction, any standard I hold up and I say, look, this is a really valuable thing, I'm going to put it over here, right? And we should all be attracted to that. If you're standing over there, you're not going to get the same. See, I can't even explain what I mean, but there's a problem with the two-dimensionality of how we understand attraction, which is exactly part of our embodiment. It's coming from the same embodiment which produced attraction and repulsion ideas in the first place. It seems to me, we're constantly moving around, which is why we keep talking about relative and why we keep talking about subjective, as if we're all kind of standing on this two-dimensional surface, and every move we make, every attraction in one direction appears to the outside like a repulsion from the other direction, and no one can agree where the centre is that we should all be attracted to. But these are just products of the metaphorical thinking that we're engaged in. Sometimes, and this is William Lane Craig, sometimes I think you get this centre of attraction. We've got this surface that we're all around on. We can't agree what the centre is that we should all be attracted to because it's a product of the metaphor. So what we sometimes do is we put the centre up here, like, oh yeah, but let's all be, up is like equidistant from every point. So we can put that thing there, the value, the source of value up there, and we can all agree that we're all equally attracted to this up thing, can't we? You know what I mean? Because it's in a different dimension. It isn't. It doesn't set up this kind of weird little relative triangulations between us. It's a partial solution, but it's just psychic geometry, psychological geometry going on, I think, there. Is that it? Yeah, that'll do on that one, I think. Yeah, I think value is based on that, really. Yeah, the second part, what you're saying, which is to do this physics thing, I'm going to need to see this again, because it's funny to talk about clock speed, because I'm rendering a video at the same time, whilst I'm watching these videos, and my computer is hopeless. So everything slows right down. So your video was pausing like every 5 seconds whilst I was watching it, and I just couldn't follow it. I just couldn't follow it because it was so broken up. But I think what you're doing there, and I think it's interesting, and you'll disagree with my interpretation of what you're doing here, Gary, and possibly be offended by it. So I'll apologise in advance. But what you're doing there is you're trying to render physics in natural language. You know what I mean? You're not using you're using some of the terms that physicists use, but you're not using any of the specialist language of physics, which I applaud. I like that, actually, but it's difficult, isn't it? Because we are talking about things that really don't belong in a human brain that's just evolved to solve the problems of getting and spending, or of attraction and repulsion. Our brains are designed for that, and we're not really designed. Our brains aren't really designed for higher order physics. And our language, our natural language, the language that we just speak when we're talking to one another, is really not cut out for talking about higher order physics. You've really got to go into specialist languages like that and leave common sense behind. But I like trying. I like giving it a go. I enjoy the attempt to cram the square peg of physics into the round hole of human language and human thinking. So I applaud your attempts, even though I don't actually follow this one because of I have no way of knowing whether you've made sense or not. I like this. I got the spaghetti bit. It's like superstring theory, but with angel hair pasta and really big. I like that. So I'll watch it again when I finish rendering and come back to you. Thanks very much.